the weekend, right before the election on May 9th in 2006, last year, there were 5 items of literature that came out, and then an item of non-literature that occurred, which we felt violated the election laws. And I want to go over just briefly what those 5 pieces were. All of the 5 written pieces of literature are up on this board here, which Marty's now dropping all over the place. And you can come up and see it blown up if you're having trouble reading it. But you should have the 5 pieces in your hand. In addition to the 5 pieces, which I'll explain, I think it's that fan that's knocking it over with it. Yeah. We need the fan, right? There were what's called robocalls. Some of you may have gotten those robocalls from what appeared to be a professional announcer. We did not say who his name was, in questioning Teaneck New Beginnings, contacts with the labor unions in town, and alleged that we could be lackeys of the labor unions, and that did not have an attribution, did not say where it came from, or on whose behalf those robocalls were being made, and we felt that those robocalls also violated the election laws, and I'll describe the election laws in 1 second. There were 5 pieces of literature. One is this piece that went out to tenants in town. Now, the TNB candidates had been endorsed by the New Jersey Tenants Organization, which is a statewide tenants organization, and flyers had gone out to tenants in town endorsing the TNB slate. In the weekend before the election, a phony flyer went out to Teaneck tenants allegedly endorsing other candidates other than the TNB candidates. And you see there's 5 candidates that did run in the election that are allegedly being endorsed by this organization, which is a phony organization. They endorsed Cliff Arrington, Charles Gonzalez, Abram Martin, who's actually Abraham Martin, John Anillo, and Howard Rose, who were running in the election last year. And it says they are the New Jersey Tenants Association. Remember I said New Jersey Tenants Organization is the real group. And the Teaneck Renters Caucus were endorsing these people. There is no such body as the Teaneck Renters Caucus, and there's no such body as the New Jersey Tenants Association. So that was a phony piece of literature that went out and attributed to groups that don't exist. There were 2 pieces that were sent out by a group identifying themselves as Tax Fairness in Teaneck. For those of you who have the literature, it's the one that starts off, New Beginnings equals New Taxes, and it has a second page at the bottom says New Beginnings spells the end of property tax relief in Teaneck. This is attributed to Teaneck Tax Fairness in Teaneck, and it gives an address at 492C, Cedar Lane, number 326, Teaneck, New Jersey. If you read that, you would think that there was an office there, and that they were in room 326. Also, Teaneck Tax Fairness sent out a targeted mailing to tenants, which is entitled, Why is New Beginnings Ignoring Tenants? And that was also from paid for by Tax Fairness in Teaneck. It said this did not have an address on it. So we see that also, it did give an attribution to Teaneck Tax Fairness, but no address on it. Now, the really, in my view, offensive ones were the ones that were sent out, and again the last weekend before the election. Who is really behind you? New Beginnings equals beginnings of the end for Teaneck, and it's the famous one that alleges that Teaneck New Beginnings will follow an anti-Semitic agenda if they are elected. And the other one was who is really behind the New Beginnings. That's the puppeteer one, which has New Politicos as the bosses and us on the puppet string. Both of those are not attributed to any group. There's a P.O. Box 126 in Mattawa, New Jersey, and a zip code from Mattawa. No attribution, no paid for, and no address other than a P.O. Box number, which is not permitted by the statute. Now, when the election occurred, my memory of how this investigation started was that there was a press conference the day after the election, and people were complaining about these pieces of literature. I think the press conference that Loretta Weinberg and Jackie Cates, as the mayor of the town at that time, had, and Loretta as our state senator, decrying this literature and indicating that for the future of Teaneck elections, that something had to be done. The town had to come together, to band together to stop this kind of anonymous literature from going around. It's my understanding that after that press conference, which made the papers, Joseph Molinelli, the Bergen County prosecutor, contacted Loretta Weinberg and offered his offices to investigate what he originally characterized as mail fraud, that he was very interested in the unfairness of the Teaneck election, that he took mail fraud very, very seriously, and that he wanted to fully investigate this. We did not ask him particularly for the investigation. Marty and I had filed a complaint with the Election Law Enforcement Commission, which is the administrative body in Trenton which looks into violations of our election laws. And also we had sent it to the Attorney General. But it was at the request of Senator Weinberg then that we met with the Bergen County prosecutor who had volunteered to do this investigation. And we met with him. We met with the chief of their confidential investigation squad and two detectives from their confidential investigation squad. The confidential investigation squad in Bergen County is the squad that investigates wrongdoing by public officials and wrongdoing in public elections, or possible wrongdoing. We gave him information. That information is summarized on this sheet up here, which you can all come up and get later, allegations. They wanted us to put it down in writing after we spoke to them, and all of the allegations that we were aware of, what had happened during the election, including the robocalls, and including some information about a witness who would come to Lizette Parker and I, and said that he knew who the perpetrators of the illegal campaign literature were, but couldn't tell us. We passed along that name of that individual, who was one of the candidates in the election. We passed along the name of that individual to the prosecutor as well. Now, the prosecutor then, we did not hear from him. This was in the end of May of 2006. We didn't hear from him. He initially said that the investigation should be done in about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. And so what I would do from my law office, every 6 to 8 weeks, I would contact this guy, Dan Keitel, who is the head of the Confidential Investigations Unit, and ask him what the progress was of the investigation. And he would constantly tell me, we need another 6 weeks, we need another 6 weeks, we're working hard on this, it's very serious. And that process of me calling every 6 to 8 weeks went through the whole year of 2006 and into 2007 until I finally said to him, I'm tired of calling you, I'm not going to listen to you telling me 6 to 8 weeks anymore, I got better things to do with my law practice and with my life, call me when you're done. And we got an email in February around Valentine's Day from Senator Weinberg that said she'd been called by Prosecutor Molinelli and said the investigation was nearing completion and that there were 4 suspects that they were getting close to, and that we would be invited to come look. That would be me, Loretta Weinberg, and Marty Kramer would be invited to come look at the investigative file within a very short period of time, and we were to, in fact, make an appointment. We then did make an appointment, Marty and I, getting our schedules together, to meet with Dan Keitel and to see the file, and that appointment was canceled 3 times during February and early March. Finally, after writing another letter to the prosecutor why our appointments were canceled 3 times, we were permitted on March 27th to come look at the prosecutor's investigation file. Marty and I we went into the confidential investigation unit, and we were told that we could not take notes at that time. We could not make copies, but we had the right to look at the complete file because we had been invited in by the prosecutor to do so, and Marty and I did together. And this is our collective memory of what we saw in the file. We think it's important for you to know this information. And I'm going to give it to you exactly as we read it in the file. And I'm not going to make any conclusions about the information that you're about to receive. And you have to make your own conclusions. So please don't ask me what conclusions I draw from this investigation or this information, because it's not my business to make those conclusions. It's your business to make those conclusions.